What's the most fucked up shit you've walked into? Friend got shit faced at a party, was put to bed to sleep it off. Lots of us stayed there as to not drive drunk. Well, when I got up to use the bathroom, I found aforementioned passed out dude sitting on the toilet with the lid down. He had his dick in his hand and was sitting in a puddle of shit. At some point in the night he got up to take a shit and decided to jerk off. He was forever known as Poop and Jerk from that point on. Was with my friend during our first year of college. We were roommates and he happened to be 21. We were walking to a liquor store to pick up some alcohol. As soon as we get across the street and about 40 feet from the building, a car completely runs over two people. One person went up flying I deck how high and the other guy kinda went airborne and to side, and I could hear sounds I never want to hear again. People run over and start helping them as we stare in disbelief. There was already too many people trying to help, so we went on and got the alcohol and came back outside and see two sets of paramedics attempting CPR. People are screaming. I could see one set of paramedics get up, and you could tell by their body language the person was dead. Not sure about the other person, but I believe they both shared the same fate. We went back in and got more alcohol, but I was still unable to forget that night. Didn't walk into it so much as it walked into me. On a night out in another town waiting for a taxi home. Random drunk lass walks around the corner from the strip to where the taxi rank is, lifts her dress up, bends over and just sprays diarrhea up the wall in front of about 20 people, pulls her dress down, and walks right into another club. The range was impressive, if nothing else. This summer I was leaving work in a rural area in New York. Got to the main highway, let a motorcycle pass, turned and started down the road behind him. He was going fast. Anyone who lives in rural New York can probably guess where this is going. I see a deer bolting across a field ahead of us. Surely this man on the motorcycle sees the deer. Hopefully the deer hears the motorcycle. Nope. The deer runs into the road. The guy wipes out. The deer miraculously jumps over the skidding bike and runs off. I stop my car, start running to the guy, while I'm dialing 911. There's a thin layer of what used to be his foot spread out over the road. He's screaming for me to get the bike off him. Other cars are stopping, and we pull the bike off him, while I'm trying to get an ambulance. His hand was completely fucked. His foot was pinned under his bike. His shoe came off, and it was shaved down to the bone. He took off his helmet, and we saw he was probably close to 80. He was chewing on a toothpick, and it went through his lip. We wrapped a belt around his leg to stop the bleeding. The ambulance arrived, they took him, and I never heard what happened to him. He was wearing jeans, a leather jacket, no gloves, and loafers. The bloody skid mark that used to be his foot was there for days until it rained and got washed away. Woke up a Sunday morning, felt like being a good kid and to make my parents some coffee and toast. I get downstairs and get to making a little breakfast tray and go into our room. To find them going at it, I made eye contact with my dad for a solid 5 seconds before setting down the tray and walking out. I don't make breakfast anymore. In my junior year of college, my best friend and I were helping pack up his girlfriend's room at the end of the semester when I heard some weird noise coming from the bathroom. It kind of sounded like someone having sex, so I thought it would be hilarious to kick the door open and surprise them. It turned out the cleaning woman was on the floor having a seizure. This happened to someone I know in a different hospital. The hospital had a relatively small ICU, a total of somewhere between 6 and 10 beds. A patient was admitted to the ICU for an out-of-control infection that happened after he went swimming in a lake a week or so after discharge from a previous hospital. Admit when he had managed to catch his pants on fire. He had severe burns covering his entire lower body, front to back, and ankles to waist, testicles, penis, and all. Swimming in unclean water after something like this is a recipe for disaster. He was diagnosed with necrotizing fasciitis and had recently undergone a surgical debridement of his lower body, and the nurses and neighbors in the ICU were constantly complaining of the odor coming from his room due to the necrotic skin he had. He was a pretty pleasant guy in a bad situation, but he had the most frustratingly loud and obnoxious, huge and trashy girlfriend that was constantly harassing the nurses and medical staff. My buddy, a physical therapist assistant, walked into the patient's room to get him moving for the day and wasn't really paying attention to the sounds behind the door/curtain into the patient's room. He pulled back the curtains to see the very large trashy girlfriend riding the patient. In the process they had managed to remove all of the patient's lower body dressings, which my buddy stated were heavily saturated with bloody drainage and draping off of either side of the bed. He said he remembered being hit by the smell first, but his jaw dropped when he saw her, but covered in slimy drainage and clotting blood. From what he remembered, that guy died a week later from infection-related complications. He says he still pictures what he saw on that day every time he gets a patient in that room in the ICU. Was delivering pizza, getting off an elevator. As the door opened, a topless woman was standing there squeaking a rubber ducky between her tits. Her boyfriend stood in their apartment door busting up. They tipped $20. Also walked in on one of my ex-roommates rubbing one out, and I didn't realize what was going on until I saw his hog. I set the Xbox controller down I was returning and walked out. We were friends for years and never spoke of it. A number of years back, while working as a nurse on night shift, I walked into a room as the patient's sister was getting out of bed. Fully nude. The patient was still in bed. Fully nude. I used to work in a prison. It's a British female prison, and I was a male officer. At lockup time I was getting everyone back to their cells, mainly by ineffectively shouting at the women, but slowly they were getting banged up for the night. I walked in this one cell to check, and on the floor were two women inserting a 2L full Coke bottle into the other, fat end first. The inserters were about 25 and the receiver 50. I just noped out of there, came back 5 minutes later and everyone was back in their own cell with just the receiver sat watching TV in her own cell. Not a word was said by me or them. Locked everyone away and never told anyone, except my wife, when I got home. And she was like, yeah well you can fit a baby out that way, a Coke bottle isn't that much wider. At university I walked in on my housemate having cocaine blown up his ass with a bicycle pump by his girlfriend. They're married now so there's someone out there for everyone. When I was about 11 or 12, I went outside to go play and quickly found a trail of dead and puppies that my pregnant Rottweiler had left in the yard. I vividly remember that one was missing its head. I followed 3 or 4 of them into the detached garage where she stayed and found her eating them. We were able to save 3. It was her first litter and she clearly did not want them, so we had take over their care. Still turns my stomach to think about. Not me, but my brother told me this. My brother is blind, and so is his friend. Let's call him Kenny. Kenny lived with his dad until one day when his dad decided to hang himself in the garage. Kenny found him by bumping into him when trying to find him when he got home from work. Was the most fucked up thing I ever heard. Best friend told me he was having a adult party and we should come by. I knew my friend and his wife dabbled in swinging, but didn't think too much of it. My GF and I bought a bottle of booze and headed over. We walked in their house and my eyes are assaulted with the wackiest shit I have ever seen. My friend's wife is riding some dude on their coach and turns around and says, oh hey guys, come on in. She never even flinched to stop fucking this dude while talking to us. So we walk in and my buddy comes barreling down the stairs buckling his pants with some half-naked girl following him. I say my hellos and make my way to the kitchen. When I walk into the kitchen there is a dude in all fishnet getting a blowjob by some very large obese lady. It was something straight out of a horror kink movie. My girl and I sipped on booze and chatted with people coming in and out of the kitchen for the next hour then took off. The event was fucking bananas. Walked into my parents' house when my teenage sister and her boyfriend were telling my parents she was pregnant. My sister was sobbing, sitting in my mom's lap and my dad was saying, "We trusted you," to her boyfriend. It took me about a quarter of a second to figure out what was happening. I gathered up the younger kids who had been sent to another room and took them all for ice cream to get them out of the house. Took them back to my place to watch movies until I got the all clear. I walked in on my sons all pissing into the toilet at once while my daughter waited her turn. They were worried about going in on their own because they saw a movie about murderers hiding in bathrooms and killing people. Stopped by an apartment complex to check it out years ago. They had a community area with seats and tables set up in their main office where people can sit and talk. They also had a computer in the corner that could be used by anyone who lived there. At the computer sat a man who was probably in his 70s, and on the screen was an image of a vagina that he zoomed in so it filled the screen. He slowly looked back at me and made eye contact with me. He then slowly turned back and stared at the vagina some more. I backed out of the doorway and drove to the next rental office. In Spain with my friend and his brother. Wasn't aware his brother was gay until I walked in on him being destroyed by a huge Maury bloke. There were tears and blood and shit everywhere. To answer everyone's questions, this happened many years ago and it definitely wasn't assault. He was consenting. I think it got a bit messy and the guy was rather large, hence the tears and blood. I was delivering a parcel to a business in a remote location. Walked in and found a naked chick throwing cucumbers at an elderly gentleman's spread ass cheeks. She saw me and told me to wait a second while she threw 2 or 3 more. It appeared as though she was trying to javelin them into his crinkly old brown eye. Then she came over, signed and went, and started collecting the cucumbers. The old guy shouted thanks. There must have been 30 cucumbers on the floor. Later that day I delivered a parcel to a guy that was in the middle of being arrested. The cops let him sign though, and he told me it was a dildo for the cop's wife, and the cop replies that if he didn't shut his mouth he'd shove the box up his ass. It was a great day, and I still think fondly of that old man and his baggy shit piece. Drunk at a party in a bar with 2 roommates of mine. A massive queue for the toilet, so I decide to go outside and just pee against some stone wall across the street. I meet a guy there, kicked out of the party. He asks if I want to pee on a normal bathroom. I say yes, and follow him towards his house, which was just around the corner, above my usual coffee shop, the kind where you buy weed. This is the Netherlands. Follow him upstairs and use his bathroom. As I walk out, he is standing there in front of me with a big A** kitchen knife. How about I stab you right now? I'm drunk and don't completely understand what is going on, and respond, I'd rather you didn't. So he puts the knife down. I follow him towards his living room, where this piano is. He asks if I play. Kinda intimidated by the knife incident, I mumble yes, and he asks me to play, which I actually can't. Proceeds to threaten me again with a knife, and I hit some keys on the piano. Completely shit. He rolls a joint, asks if I want some. I sit down on the couch with him, smoke some weed. My friend calls and asks where I am. Explain him I am above the coffee shop doing weed. Friend rings the doorbell, gets threatened as well, and then joins us on the couch smoking weed. We get stoned, get on our way. Never seen the dude again. Thanks so much for watching. We here at Club Pepe appreciate your support. If you liked the video, leave a like and subscribe to see more content of superior quality like this on our channel.